Hi, I'm so excited to have on the show today Angela Size. She's the Vice President of People Operations and a mental health advocate for a company called Counslr. Counslr is a digital platform for mental health. Counslr's been seen all over the news lately, CBS, Business Insider, Parents, Campus News, and many, many others. They're really passionate about providing mental health access to anyone at any time. Angela, as a former head of HR, brings a really unique point of view on mental health and the impact it has on organizations, but more importantly, on the human. And we discuss what does that mean for our community and the future of work. So let's jump in, shall we, and dig into this topic, a very important one on keeping us healthy. People Work is proud to present Strategic Shift, a podcast dedicated to exploring the future of work. Thank you for joining us as we hear stories of bold decisions and workforce innovations. I'm Christy Honeycutt, and I'm your host.
Angela, thank you so much for joining us on Strategic Shift. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm actually calling in from the heart of America, Wichita, Kansas.
Oh my gosh, Wichita, Kansas is, I used to have a client base there, and I believe, isn't that the city where they test all the new restaurants?
I don't know about that. We're known as the air capital of the world, so we have some very major aerospace manufacturers here. I will say a little nugget, Pizza Hut was founded here.
So was Taco Tico, my favorite Mexican restaurant. If you've gone, you know. If you know, you know. So, Angela, I know that my introduction did not do you justice. You have such a great background and passion for what you do. Would you share with the audience, what your role is and why you're passionate about what you do?
Yes, happy to. Thank you so much for having me. I am very passionate about what I do, and it's taken a little while to get here. I did start off my career in this space, but I am so grateful that there is a space now for me to play, to thrive, to fulfill a purpose in life where I can reach out and help others. So I'm currently the VP of People Operations for a digital mental health organization called Counslr. We provide mental health support to, believe it or not, students as young as 10 years old, all the way through college, but also private employers and private organizations as well. So it could be students, it could be first responders. We handle that demographic or audience as well. We work with licensed clinicians to support their needs as well. So our clinicians support clinicians out in the field. It's just a really interesting organization and a wonderful time to be involved in this space because there is such a need for mental health support.
That's beautiful. And I know just before the show, you and I were chatting, coming up in the industry, right? Single moms and the stress and the sacrifices that we make for the almighty dollar and our career and progressing our family. And there's so much that I don't think that we really share about the beatdown. And you hear things today like burnout and job hugging and all of that. So when we look at mental health and the future of work, what are you seeing like trends in the workplace that are impacting organizations if the mental health is just not where it needs to be?
Oh, there's definitely a need for mental health support. We are seeing burnout. We are seeing compassion fatigue. That's a topic that people don't talk about significantly, but it is absolutely there. If you're in a role where you are responsible, have direct responsibility for others, that could be a school teacher, that could be a licensed clinician, that could be a first responder, that could be line management, or it could be HR.
Lots of times it is HR.
That's right. We carry that burden. And like a mother, what do? We put our needs behind everybody else's. So we take care of them. But what's happening to us? The burnout, the stress, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, the depression, all of those things are affecting us as well. And we need to keep in mind, work is a social determinant of health. It impacts our
Mm.
emotional, our mental, our social, our biological, our financial well-being. And when we're not well, guess what? We impact everyone around us. We don't leave that at work. We take that home to our family, our friends, and our community. And we really need to step back and position ourselves so that we prioritize our self-care, because that benefit has a good ripple effect or negative, and we want it to be good.
No, you're right. If you think about, and I know this is an overused analogy, but it's a good one, is you have to put your oxygen mask on first, right? So you can help other people. So if you think about, and look, I'm a yogi, energy person, meditation coach. I'm all about making sure that we're good. But if you think about it, it's your health first, it's your family second, and then it's your work and business third. And to me, and there's an author, Libby DeLucan, who actually wrote a book called One Layer Deep that talks about that methodology. But if you think about it, it makes sense, because you've got to be able to take care of yourself to take care of others. But oftentimes, especially in our current environment, and heck, I mean, we were talking about, I don't know how long you've been in the business. I've been in for 20 years. It was often business, family, self, right? Like
Right.
complete opposite. So are you seeing that kind of play out in today's workforce?
I've seen a tremendous change. Our younger generation is saying, absolutely not. I've seen what you did to my parents and my grandparents. You're not going
Mm,
to do that to me. Why? Because I have leverage. I have the knowledge, I have the skills and the abilities that you need. And they're prioritizing their self-care. They're demanding mental health support as a part of their benefits package. They are demanding flex time, more PTO. Why? Because they're prioritizing their self-care, they're prioritizing their family. That's coming before work. When you and I were in our earlier stages, right? The emphasis was work, work, work. You want to get ahead. You had to be seen. You had to put in the hours. And when you got overwhelmed or burnt out, you know what we were told? You need to better manage your work-life balance. I'm sorry,
time management might not be your strong suit. Yeah.
exactly, time management. You got to work, you got to balance work with life. And I always thought that is really such a line. Um, Work is controlling me. I have to work, right? So when I
Mm.
think about that today, I am so very happy that I'm not in that work-life balance rat race. I'm in a space of work-life harmony, and I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position to say, if you're going to disrupt my harmony, guess what? You might not be fitting in my world. I'm in a position to make that choice. And this is what I hope that people will work towards. Not work-life balance. Work-life balance forces you to make very hard choices and decisions. And we might
Mm.
have to, but let's keep those to a minimum and work towards a life where work and our life can function in a harmonious state. That brings joy, that brings reward, that brings fulfillment, all those wonderful qualities that we can share and transcend upon others versus anxiety, depression, stress, anger, all those negative kind of behaviors that none of us need to experience.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, we have children, I think, around the same age, and I shared with you just before the call that my boys are 30 and 32 years old, and they made a comment to me. I was speaking to them one night, and it was probably about 7 o'clock at night, and I was still kind of working, finishing some things out, and they said, "Mom, please don't work all night again. Please don't work all night again." And I'm thinking, that's their view of me, right? And I know as moms, we constantly go back and criticize ourselves on how we've done with our kids, right? And you can't get that time back. You can't get this elusive work-life balance to do both. And as a single mom, you're wearing all the hats, right? And I was a single mom from the time they were 6 up. So I never remarried or anything. If we look at how they're kind of challenging the workforce today and the future of work, What recommendations do you have for the new generation coming into the workforce? Because it's a multi-generational workforce, lots of different thoughts, right? We've got
Mhm.
some boomers, I'm a Gen Xer, that may see things a little bit differently. They may appreciate their, their new lens, or they may not. What advice, Angela, can you give the new workforce coming in to navigate that?
Sure. I think you have to operate with an open mind. Everyone has a different opinion. They can see things differently. We're not asking you to agree. We're asking you to keep an open mind and think about that. When we're trying to operate in a world of inclusion, let's think about what that truly means. I've always said this. Some of the most brilliant solutions come from a point of disagreement, but what they were able to do is see the world in a different way. I might not agree with what you're saying today, and I may not ever agree with that, but I am open to having that conversation and respecting that you have a different point of view. And if we can come together and work in such a way that we can collaborate, we're going to be far better off than trying to draw a line in the sand or defend our position in an organization where we should be marching to the same tune to achieve that mission of the organization.
Yeah, I think open mind is critical. Curiosity, I think, is critical. It's interesting because in the area of burnout we have, and I told this story before, and I hope that my friend doesn't kill me, but she's a recruiter and she's out there. And years ago, if a candidate would come up and say, why do you like to work at XYZ? And why do you think I would like to work at XYZ? And how's the culture? And all the questions, recruiters would just clamor to that, like, yes, this is a passionate candidate. They care, they're invested. So let's switch it, right? And so she calls me. She's like, will you believe the audacity of this candidate to ask me how I felt like what it was like to work here, and how they would feel like what it would be like to work here? And I thought, woo. And I took him in and I said, not as your coach, but as your friend, I'm going to give you some feedback. I'm going to be a mirror. I said, because you 3 and 5 years ago would have been astounded and delighted that a candidate said that. But today you're irritated. And I think that's an indication of burnout. Maybe need to take a beat, a breath, internalize that a little bit more, and kind of see how you're showing up and what's going on with you, because I think you're projecting it on this candidate. And the candidates, I mean, we're in a really interesting time in space where we had, like, what was it, over 200,000 layoffs in the past 2 weeks, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
And we're in this environment where, people are job hugging because they're terrified they can't get a job. So many people have been let go. You've got a lot of people that are entering the workforce. Entry-level jobs are going away because AI is the new thing, right?
Sure.
So we're in this really weird mucky muck that I know and is going to change. So how can organizations really lean in and help? Like, what are some of the indications? We know the why. It's going to be productivity. It's going to be, retention, right? It's going to be happy
Mhm.
workers, all those things that impacts everybody. But what guidance do you have for the organizations that maybe don't realize this is happening, that they have unhealthy people in the workforce?
Well, we have some organizations that may not realize, and then we have plenty of organizations that ignore it. And what I would
Ooh,
say is, let's not ignore reality. We have opportunities to really take a pulse of what's happening within our workforce, and we should. We should know what's happening. We should be willing to listen, and that's where we start. Let's listen to what they're really saying. Let's not project our opinions upon them, but what are they telling us? Because again, I like to work from a point of collaboration. And the best way for me to collaborate is to understand, hear you, try to actualize what it is that your point you're trying to make, where there could be opportunity for improvement, or maybe there is truly a critical deficiency that we're just overlooking. Be open to what our employee base is saying to us. If they're going to be courageous enough to step up and actually voice their opinion, my goodness, give them the courtesy of and the respect to hear them out. They are team players just like the rest of us. So I think we have to start with truly listening, understanding what our organizational values are, and holding ourselves accountable for living those values. They're not just words on the wall. They should not be just words on the wall. Let's say that. Everything we say
Yes.
and do, how we operate, how we collaborate, should all be heavily tied with those values, including our metrics. And that's something we tend to overlook. You had mentioned we think about productivity, we think about retention. Sure, those are great metrics. They are. But when we're thinking about engagement, have we ever thought
Yes.
about what's it truly like when we're at town halls? Are we getting questions from our employees, or do we have 300 people just staring at us with blank faces?
A
Terrified.
culture of silence.
That's
Yeah.
right. Terrified to even say anything. But yet they go back and you see them clamoring in the cubicle or the manager's office, or they're outside. They're talking. But what are they saying? What are they afraid to say to us? So we need to create this culture where there's psychological safety, that our employees can feel that they can come forward and share, not complain, but share, so that we can work together to create this wonderful environment that we can have and achieve our mission. But if we're going to ignore what's truly happening, we're never going to get to the root cause. We'll band-aid it until the next major situation happens. And guess what? We're going to lose people along the way. And we really should
Yeah.
be more mindful of how we're treating people and how we're working together.
How, in your experience, what have you seen organizations do well in collecting that sentiment, like the listening activities?
Sure. There's a number of different ways. There can be the formal ways of, as we all know, the employee opinion survey. Those things go out annually for some organizations. Some organizations have employee resource groups. Some organizations have skip level meetings, and some just have that wonderful open door policy and have an environment where people are not afraid to chit chat and talk, have those water cooler conversations where we really can understand what the truth is, where some organizations don't believe in that. They don't think that they need to hear from line staff or the worker-bees, if you will, because they have all the answers and it'll come top down. Don't know too many organizations where that is working effectively.
Well, it
But
would
there's
be
just
nice
so
if they were
many
able.
Yeah, there's just so many new opportunities for communication. This is what I love about technology. Um, when our organization is 100% remote. So we use Slack heavily, different channels to have different conversations. But not only do I use it internally with our employee base, but I also use it externally for my professional growth and development. I'm in a number of different other organizational groups where we're talking about HR related topics, where yes, I can certainly share, but I can learn. So technology is something that we should embrace, use responsibly, use ethically, obviously, but we shouldn't shy away from it. Whether it's something as simple as a Slack channel to using AI, because I'm an AI enthusiast. I definitely think there's a place in the world for it.
Well, no, I love what you said, because I think if organizations can get better at listening, actively listening, right? And I think it's more than listening. It's observing, it's body language. It's, do people seem happy? Are they smiling? Are they engaged? Just like you said, there's lots of indicators. But if they
Mhm.
can learn to do the listening activities versus maybe reviewing the exit surveys, you might be able to get in front of it, right? And actually
Right.
from an ROI perspective, positive mental health is a positive ROI. But when you bring in the AI, which I'm so glad you did, and I know you're an enthusiast, I am as well, we do have, we're in this moment in time where people are on one side of the fence with AI, right? You're either curious and embracing it or you're not. And it does bring up emotions differently for each individual. And people are navigating this in organizations, whether they work there and it's getting deployed or they're trying to get a job and maybe they don't have the skill set. I'm curious, in the age of AI and with mental health awareness, are you seeing any trends that are popping up?
Yes. AI trends that we're seeing in mental health, there's definitely reason for concern. The speed of which AI has been implemented into various tools and apps to address the various mental health conditions that exist is a bit alarming. We're still trying to get our arms around AI and all the wonderful capabilities it has. Most people think of it just as a tool, but AI, it really impacts the way we think, the way we work, the way we live. It's not just a tool to help me write a social media post. There's more happening in the back end of things that people don't realize. And I think that's also part of the reason why we've got some fear, because it's the unknown. But in the mental health space, we're already seeing litigation going on where, unfortunately, people have utilized the chatbots as therapists and sought out clinical care and guidance that resulted in the loss of life. This is very irresponsible. And I'm not putting the blame on any one person, but it does lead us down the road of being more accountable, using it ethically. And before we even get to that point, how we're developing. Are we developing in
Yeah.
a responsible way, right? We should not ever think of AI as a replacement for human intervention and human interaction, especially when it comes to clinical care. I'll be honest with you, I'm the lead caregiver for my in-laws. So I coordinate all the care, and I'm sitting in a doctor's meeting, and the doctor's got his tablet there, and he's telling me, oh, well, we have this AI function within our software that helps me with diagnoses. And he's looking at us, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. And I just thought, whoa, wait a minute. It doesn't make sense to you as a physician. I've got concern here, and I want to put a pause on this because I don't like that this tool is helping you diagnose and you're saying, oh, this doesn't make sense. How do I know that the information that AI is providing is accurate? It's factual. I don't want to see the situation where care is being compromised because the AI tool is saying, oh, that's a fine medication for this situation, but it's not taken into any consideration previous conditions and medications, and now I've got an issue. So whether it's mental health or physical health, there are so many different uses of AI today. In this space, I am seeing where AI has become somewhat of a companion where you can download apps and it will provide some guidance. It may seem very simple from a subclinical standpoint, but the fact is people are now using it beyond what it really is capable and even intended to do. Yes, we're in development stages, but nobody has totally figured it out yet. So again, I go back to, I think it's not appropriate for clinical care, diagnoses of any sort in the mental health space. But certainly a chatbot could help you with, I'm looking for a resource to help me sleep at night. And can you produce a couple of PDFs from a evidence-based resource, right? A medical journal or what have you? Sure, we can certainly have that kind of interaction, But what we're seeing is people are so quick to produce and put it out to market, it's questionable whether or not the information they're feeding the AI tool is valid, factual, evidence-based, and authentic. So a lot of care has to be exercised.
No, I think that's really interesting, right, to hear it from that perspective, because if you think about just the basic chatbot that somebody might use, like, so if there's so many different AI deployments for all types of different organizations, but let's just go with the most basic one, which I was told its nickname is Chad, which is Chatbot GPT. You literally can put in like what kind of persona you want Chad to be. I want Chad to be an executive coach that's going to give me
Yes.
feedback on this. So it's great from a creative standpoint, but it does kind of scare me a little bit with your story about taking care of your in-laws. And thank you so much for doing that, because we're in the sandwich generation where we're taking care of kids and in-laws, right? And our
Right.
parents.
Mhm.
There's stress. Each generation has stress, no different than the previous, but it's a little bit different. And I think with the speed of which we have reality coming at us with AI, with technology, which just
Yes.
continuously gets faster and faster. And I think in my opinion, it's to help give us a little bit of more time back, right? And help us have work-life balance or some sort of balance. But I perceive that what it's going to do is, well, that made you more efficient, so I need more out of you. I believe we're going to go into a place where we might have a little bit more stress if it doesn't have the appropriate guardrails, not only from how it's prompting and the sources it's pulling from, but also how it's being utilized and what the intention is. So I love that you brought the clinical case study up about that we do need to approach things a little bit with a grain of salt right now, because it is continuously being refined.
It is. And again, I will say it and say it. Yes, we can automate processes. In fact, we already have. Let's be honest here. People use online banking. They still use ATMs. What are we concerned that we have less bank tellers in the world? I don't think people think about it as much. So we
Yeah.
know technology
Yeah.
has progressed over time and we've learned to accept it. But what I'm suggesting is that we slow the pace down a little bit, put some more governance around this, some accountability, the ethical and responsible usage. Just really think about that before trying to rush to market. Um, there is wonderful opportunity here. As you mentioned, yes, it help optimize the workflows and create efficiencies so we have more work-life balance. But AI should never replace the human aspect, the human intelligence, the emotional side of things that, well, it can try to learn, but I will never believe that it's going to be acceptable as a human's presence in the situation and in the moment. And when we're talking about mental health, it is so critically important for that clinician to connect with that individual on the other
Yeah.
end, to truly understand how they're managing their day, what they're experiencing, what they're going through in order to work with them to get the best outcome possible. AI is just going to analyze a few key words that you're telling it right now and try to cross-reference and say, "Oh, here you go." Well, life is not like that. I'm sorry, it's
Yeah.
messy. Right? We're on multiple paths sometimes, and with the speed of technology, we have things coming at us all the time, even when we're asleep. So that human aspect, it can never be taken out of the equation for you to have a successful outcome.
I love that. That's just so well put. And so we are talking about the future of work. We're talking how mental health is impacting that, right? And I think we've determined that stressors have always been there, but they are coming a little bit faster than maybe they did 5 years ago. What guidance do you have for those individuals that are in the workforce that are looking for an organization to land? And we know that the jobs are not as plentiful as we'd like, so they might be settling. But
Mhm.
what are some basic questions that you would offer up, Angela, to help someone navigate I'm making the best decision with this organization, knowing that my health and my mental health is important to me. What questions should they be asking the organization, the recruiter, hopefully the one that's not
Mhm.
burned out, why it would be a good place to work there? What are some indicators that you've seen that are positive?
Sure. I think before they start asking the recruiter, they need to level set with themselves about what they are looking for. My experience in HR is that people chase jobs for the income and the stability. And I also see that those are the people who burn out and they leave. So before
Yeah.
you even start have that conversation with the recruiter, I suggest you stop, level set with yourself about what your wants and needs are and your desires. As I mentioned before, for me, work-life harmony has to be one of the benefits that I'm going to experience there, which whatever organization I go to. Not work-life balance, but work-life harmony. That's what I'm looking for. So for me, if I were going to a new organization, that's the topic I'm going to discuss. And I'm going to ask, what does that look like in this organization? Also for me, what's important, my whole self-care package. Yes, time off is absolutely important to me. Why? Because a large component of my self-care package is volunteering. I love to spend my time volunteering, and I want to know that the organization that I'm working for will support me because that's a form of self-care. For some people, yes, it's going to the spa. I won't downplay that at all. We're all different. But what you would be,
I'll take both.
I would challenge you to really think about what it is to have this meaningful work experience. When you're going to this organization, you're going to think about those things, but also truly, do you understand their mission and how they go about achieving that mission? So describe for me what that's like. I can ask you what the culture's like in the work environment. I remember the day I used to get those questions as well as I was recruiting. And of course, I said it was wonderful. But the truly, it may be wonderful for me, but it may not be wonderful for you because that's not the kind of work environment you can thrive in. So there's some self-assessment that needs to be done up front. So when you are positioning yourself in that organization with the recruiter, you have a list of questions that are actually meaningful to you. Of course, they're
Yes.
going to talk to you about the PTO policy, but now you're going to sort of internalize that and say, but what does that mean for me? Great. I get 3 weeks of time off. But in that 3-week time period, do you also have time off for mental health days, or do I have to take it out of that PTO? Do you have days set aside for volunteering? Because some organizations, I worked some fabulous organizations that volunteering was paid time off and it did not come out of your PTO. So it also gives you a sense of the culture of that organization, what values they truly believe in. So I'm suggesting you do your homework well in advance before you even start having those conversations with the recruiter. Because if they're giving you the 30,000-foot view, when you're sitting in front of the manager, the hiring manager you'd report to, that's who you're going to ask those questions to.
Those are really, really good nuggets and practical nuggets. And I would challenge organizations to have a think about what you're offering in these areas that Angela is speaking to, because it is important. We're moving into a more of a purpose-driven culture. And thanks to AI, we are also moving into more of a human awareness culture of emotional intelligence and EQ and mental health. And I choose the lens of this is a beautiful place to be, and I'm excited for the future of work. And so Angela, I really appreciate getting to see you. And we've been on panels before, and you're an amazing speaker. You bring such great insight. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave with the audience before we wrap up?
Yes. This is something that if you ever visit my LinkedIn page, you will see me discussing this quite a bit. I look at the culture of an organization as needing to have this environment of workplace well-being where we all subscribe to this, we embrace it. Because when we have workplace well-being established, we're going to have a far better outcome. And when we talk about well-being, we should look at that as a shared company value. We're all responsible for that. As I mentioned, work is a social determinant of health. And for any employer to think that they have no responsibility beyond benefits and a paycheck is really ridiculous in this day and age. As you mentioned, people are looking to connect with purpose, for fulfillment, reward. It's not just a job that they're going to. This is a part of them that they're giving every day in a significant part. So it's a shared responsibility. When we can focus on the mental health aspect, we know there's a ripple effect, and our family, our friends, our community, they benefit from this. We can work towards this work-life harmony that I discussed. When we achieve that, we will see better engagement with our employees, right? Better outcomes, fulfillment, success, all these things that we look for. And I'm not referring to just the traditional metrics of productivity and revenue and those kinds of
Well,
things.
let's keep the CFOs in mind,
They're
because we got to get
important.
approval for these things.
They're absolutely important, and we can help you achieve it, but we got to work together.
Yeah. So if for those of the audience that's watching, if there's organizations out there, if there's individuals out there, how can they get in touch and be a part of what you guys are doing, or get your services?
Sure. There's a couple different ways. So for HR professionals, we have a great partnership with Hacking HR that I would ask you to take a look at your membership benefits, because we have a wonderful opportunity there. You can always connect with me directly on LinkedIn. Angela Sycz, SYCZ. I love connecting with folks and talking to them about where they are in this space and where we are and how we can collaborate. You can also visit our website, Counslr, that's COUNSLR.com, and to connect with us that way.
I love it. Well, again, Angela, thank you so much for holding space for the audience. Guys, go like, follow, check Counslr and Angela out. You will not regret it. And until next time, keep shifting.
Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Christy Honeycutt. Be sure to subscribe to Strategic Shift so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as we continue to explore innovation in the future of work. Until then, keep shifting.